Sorry, Mayor Nenshi, how confident are you that this arena committee can re-engage the Flames?
You know, look, I'm happy that council members are taking this initiative. I think hitting the reset button is a good idea, but the reset button has to be hit from both sides. And given that we were not the party that walked away, I think that it's important that everyone come back to the table, and maybe with new faces around the table as well. Make no mistake, the negotiation, if there is one, will be challenging. Voters, electors, citizens were very, very clear in the last election on what they were willing to stand for and what they were not. That said, when we see what's happened in Seattle and on Long Island, we can see that the universe of possibilities and potential partners is bigger than it used to be. So I'm hopeful that everyone will come with an open mind and an open heart and really think about what's possible here and what's right for Calgary.
So what I'm unclear about is, can you be on this committee?
I am on this committee.
You are on it.
That said,
as a full,
yeah,
like not
automatically.
Okay.
But that said, I will absolutely give this group the oxygen to do their work. So I intend to not attend, at least at the beginning, and let them sort themselves out.
Does that make it a challenge to form this committee? The city can do all the work it wants, but again, the city wasn't the one who walked away from negotiations.
That's the hard part here, right? That's the hard part here. But that said, you know, as Councillor Davison has very eloquently put it, you got to be the bigger man, right? You got to say that you're willing to start the conversation again, and I think that's right. I think that's the right way to go.
Is there any point in having a conversation, though, if there isn't more public money on the table?
That's the most important question that the committee is going to have to face. You know, it was very, very clear to citizens that 1/3 of the funding, which is what the city's previous proposal was pretty much the maximum that citizens would bear. But that said, as I said last fall, last summer, last spring before that, the fall before that, we are willing to absolutely look at creative solutions here. And if those have to do with different forms of financing, with timing of cash flows, we can look at that. It'll be hard for the committee to convince me to put a lot more public money on the table. I think it'll be hard for the committee to convince council to do that. I think it'll be hard for the committee to convince Calgarians to do that.
Can you talk about other partners? What does that look like? What does that include?
Well, you know, for example, when you look at what OVG has put together and what in Seattle and on Long Island, when you look at what AEG has done, it really is around thinking of the building more as, I really don't like that term event center because it's so generic, but thinking about the building more as a concert center as well as a sports center. And really bringing a lot of expertise to bear on that releases a bunch of potential cash. And you have to believe that the Seattle and Long Island versions, and Seattle doesn't even have any teams yet, they've done their cash flows and realized that there's a way to make this work with significant private funding and get significant payback. And I think that we should expand our thinking beyond, you know, 43 nights of Flames, 40 nights of Hitman, and some lacrosse plus concerts on the side. There's probably an interesting way to think about this.
The terms of reference, the proposed terms of reference, seem to at least open the door to exploring other options, including the West Village, which you raised concerns about the chambers there. I mean, why is the committee even considering that possibility, that site?
Well, you know, I was convinced a little bit by Councillor Davison in his close when he said that he doesn't want to take anything off the table yet, because maybe there is a case where an OBG or someone will come to the table and say, we'll 100% privately fund this, but it can't be on that particular site in Victoria Park, and we wouldn't want to close the door on that. All of that said, the thing I would strongly caution the committee against doing is making sure that they don't spend a ton of money relitigating the West Village. That analysis has been done. It was very clear, and council made a very clear decision.
In terms of
anything else,
negotiations,
though, man,
do you foresee Jeff Fielding as being the city's point person when it comes to actually sitting down at a table?
That's something the committee is going to have to figure out. You know, members of council have not been involved in negotiations to date. I think that was the right way to do it. If they want to have members of council around the table, I think Mr. Fielding will have to be there as well.
Can council also make recommendations to make it more available to more people? Like you look at the Edmonton Arena, the average ticket price went up between 80 to 200% all across the board, and that's not exactly available to most people.
And this is what I worry about. When we look at the Edmonton deal, for example, you know, Edmonton, the city of Edmonton has allowed a certain number of days for public access but the operating costs on those days is so high that it's very hard to just do a family skate or something. It costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, if my memory serves, in order to do that. So that first principle, I'm really going to push the committee hard to still abide by that first principle, which is public money has to have public benefit, depending on how you define that. But that means that overall, whatever we build here has to be something that is accessible to the public in some way.
Other topics, folks?
You did give Jeff Fielding some more work with big corporations.
We did.
What does that include?
Sure. So that's actually a pretty minor thing. So the various members of the BID Corporation, which is the City of Calgary, the Province of Alberta, the Government of Canada, and the Canadian Olympic Committee, each have 3 representatives they can appoint to the BID Corporation. And that work really has to happen over the next couple of weeks. That said, it was pointed out to us that in order for us to ratify the bylaws and actually set up the corporation, it needed at least 3 directors to be in place. So we just thought it made sense, since Mr. Fielding will almost certainly be one of our nominees to the final BidCo, it made sense to just appoint him now so the work can continue. It was remarkably non-dramatic.
When will the BidCo CEO and board chair?
Board chair, I'm hoping very soonish.
I knew you were going to say that.
That was just for Scott, he misses me. Board chair, I'm hoping very soon. I know that we're to the very final straws on making sure that the various members make that appointment. So I'm hoping that'll be really within days. The CEO will be a while yet, because the chair needs to be part of that decision. So the chair needs to sit with the members and or the BidCo members to actually make that hire. So that'll be a while yet.
So
And when I say a while, this got to move fast. If it's more than a month, I'm going to be very nervous.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the other 2 members that are appointed, do you know which, is it the province, the feds, or?
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I understand that the province and the COC have already put names for it, but this is strictly for legal purposes. They might not even be the same people who serve on the committee going forward.
And the current timeline in terms of naming the other 2 city representatives?
I really would love to do it in the next week to 10 days, so we'll see how we go.
Awesome.
While you're here,
Well, I'm here.
can you talk about your agenda for the Big City Mayors?
Oh, sure. Yeah, happy to do that.
That's on Thursday, right?
Yes, I leave on Wednesday, but yeah, I fly all day Wednesday, so it's on Thursday. Yeah, so there are a number of topics on the agenda for the Big City Mayors Conference. These agendas rarely change. Affordable housing, cannabis, infrastructure spending, and in particular what the big cities' position is going to be going into the upcoming federal election, and the kinds of things that we're going to advocate for. I also have a particular interest in having a conversation around the urban indigenous strategy, which the federal government is currently reviewing but has not actually talked to the cities about yet.
Well, some of those are familiar. Talk a little about cannabis. What's on the agenda?
Oh, no.
The revenue share was sorted, wasn't it?
Revenue shares.
There's a letter going out to the province, isn't there?
Yeah, revenue share is sorted. I've been asked to write a letter to the federal government, actually, just saying, get a move on. So hopefully we'll actually get an update from the federal government as to where they're at. And the nice thing about these Big City Mayors conferences is we also share best practices with one another. So if people have questions about the things that cities deal with, zoning, business licenses, enforcement, that kind of thing, that'll be a good opportunity for some information sharing there.
Why write a letter to the federal government on cannabis? I mean, the date has been set for June 7th for the Senate to
Oh, has it? See, you're one ahead of me.
That's their deadline, and then
Yeah.
they have 8 to 12 weeks to set the regulations, so nothing's changed on that front.
Okay, you're a step ahead of me, because what I said in council today is I didn't know what the latest date on the Senate was. I understood it was coming quickly. And no one on council seemed to know, so they just said, go ahead and write that letter. If there's no need, there's no need.
But that's what you're looking for, is the date for legalization.
That's right.
Okay.